Well, we'll get started, everybody. I want to thank everybody for coming out to our Penguin Mixer, and glad to be back here on Thursday night after a week off as we get set for a big home game with South Dakota State coming into town on Saturday. As the Penguins sit 2-2. South Dakota State coming in 1-4. They lost to Indiana State last week, 38-28. And Coach, let's first begin talking about your team. And you have a couple weeks off. It's a bye week during the season. I know you said last time I talked you thought it was a good time to have a bye week. You had some guys nicked up and an opportunity to refocus. Did you get accomplished in the couple weeks what you had hoped to?
Yes, I did. I felt real comfortable coming out last week. You know, the 49ers were here. That was a little bit of somewhat of a distraction as far as just our players being excited and having an opportunity to be around those guys. But we got a chance to see those guys and how hard they work. A lot of people don't realize how hard professional athletes really have to work to make that squad. You know, they only have 53 guys that make it, and I think it was a perfect time because we've had some youth in our program that have had early success. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when you have success too early, you think that it's, it's easy to come by. And, I even look back to myself when I had a chance to start as a freshman. You know, I started really by default because the guys that I was competing against weren't up to par for the Big 8 conference at the time. And I think sometimes when you have early success and you become a starter at early age, you kind of get a false sense of reality. That's why a lot of times across the country you see guys have what they call a sophomore slump. Mm-hmm. And I felt like that we had some guys that maybe were taking things for granted a little bit and had a little bit too much success as far as starting and playing and getting some exposure and having a couple of games where they did a couple of things successfully that we needed a little bit of a reality check. Obviously, we got that, and we're not good enough to come out and spot somebody 21 points off the bat.
Ed, I'll let you jump in after this question to Coach. What specifically did you hope to get accomplished and clean up from the Indiana State game?
Well, I think there's some fundamental things that we weren't doing as far as just a complete understanding that if you have the C gap and the gentleman that's behind me has the D gap and the safety behind him is the cleanup guy, and that's the way we need to approach it. And if the gentleman is not in the C gap, then the gentleman that has D might try to make up for the guy in C, and next thing you know, mm-hmm. the guy that's supposed to take care of it all doesn't take care of his business. But I think we've got some of that stuff shirt away. And then I think some pad level things, some footwork things, some hand placement things. Those are all little things that doesn't sound like they amount to much, but everybody on every play has a landmark. Everybody has a target. Everybody has a hand placement. They have leverage. They understand where the ball is supposed to go to. If we have an eighth man that's coming down the box, that means we need to spill it to him, mm-hmm. and that doesn't mean take it on head on. That means spill it to him, and there's a big difference there. And but no excuses. Hopefully we got that stuff corrected, and it'll show up on Saturday.
Coach, you talked a lot about the physical part of the mistakes, and not that those are easy to fix, but those are X's and O's that you could show people on film, you can practice it. What did you do during these 2 weeks to get the emotion going? I mean, if anybody watched the game, it obviously, as in any sport, emotion plays a big part. Inexperience and youth, I think, somehow plays a part. But what did you do over the last 2 weeks to get that rolling?
I went a little bit Coach Spurrier style on day one, which was Monday after the Indiana State game. What happened was a lot of our coaches were out recruiting because we had made plans earlier to go and do that, and we needed to get out and obviously continue to recruit. So I decided we were going to have a meeting, and it was going to be myself, the offense, and the defense, and that was it. We sent the travel squad. The guys that didn't travel, we sent them out of the room. They went and lifted weights, and we kind of had a little bit of a heart-to-heart, a little bit of a reality check. We put the offense up first, put the defense up second, and I didn't want this team or anyone really to think that there's necessarily one side to blame all the time. I think sometimes from the outside looking in, that's easy to do. But if another team comes out and gets a quick 7 on you, my philosophy is on offense, you need to come back and put 7 up too.
Right.
And what happened was we were 3 and out. They got another 7. We were 3 and out. You know, so the thing is there's don't start pointing fingers. There's a lot of things we could have did better, but I think we realized that you can't just show up to a football game, and even though walkthroughs are great, meetings are good, the bus ride over there is quiet, everybody's on time, and we're all sharp and all that, is when you come out and play, regardless of the environment you're in, regardless of the locker room you're in, regardless of whether you're 18 or 21 years old, you've got to be ready to play. And we got a sucker punch off the bat, and I think it's a reality check, and I think some of those guys realized that they weren't ready to play. Even though they pretended and played the game, they were somewhat of a fraud.
Ed, you fall behind 21-0. I think Coach hit on something that right away fans will point at the defense, and there were some breakdowns, but those 3-and-outs were killers because not only did we not score, Indiana State kept getting the ball in good field position. They were taking over at the 45, the 50, and the defense was right back out there. So we scored one or two times, but on the bright side, they only scored 3 points in the second half. Coach, I mean, I don't know whether it was adjustments or better defense. Everybody likes to say at halftime there's adjustments made. I'm not sure if that was it. Maybe you can elaborate on that. But you did a better job second half of shutting them down.
There was a lot of adjustments at halftime. I can assure you that. It started with a lot of screaming and yelling. But, we've made a change. We're going to put Coach Kravitz on the field. And we don't have time to wait to bring him down on the box. We're going to put him on the field this week. And I told Rick that we don't have time to make halftime adjustments, whether it's in Illinois State, Indiana State. They need to be done after the first series. So we put him down on the field, and he feels more comfortable there. And when I was with him at South Florida, that's the way we always did it. So we're going to get back to doing those things. And then, I expect, I think we learned our lesson on defense. I'm interested to see, but I feel pretty confident that we got our point across.
I thought it was very positive how they reacted, and that you had a lot of young kids, and it could have reacted and it could have got really ugly. And at a time, they did step up. And it's, Wolf, you and I have talked. This is a key week. You have a lot of good players on defense, a lot of good players on offense, but defensively you don't have a heck of a lot of starts, and you can't teach that. And I think the talent is there, and the big question mark this year that you had and you posed to the team at the beginning of the season, and you did it Monday, is can you come together as a team? There are some great athletes at Alabama and a lot of places that had some great guys on the team that went into the pros that did win the national championship. And I really feel this is a key week for this team if they could step up and show up from the first play, who's going to make it, and to get a big win this week.
Coach, before we look ahead and we'll start talking about South Dakota State, one final question. End of the game, you get to within a couple points. You have 3 timeouts. You're going to kick off. You onside kick, which was not successful. They get the first down, game over. Was there discussion, or was it a unanimous that we're going to onside kick?
We had a discussion. The thing is that, we just felt like that, I don't know. I felt like if they got one first down, we probably would have been done. Mm-hmm. And, it's a decision we made. We kind of visited about it, everybody on the board, myself, Matt Sakas, Montgomery, Kravitz, and we decided to go for the onside. And it was a very poor attempt, very poor performance. But, it's something we work on all the time. We expect a better result. In hindsight, you always second-guess yourself, But that's where we're at, and, it's very difficult. You've got to move on,
right.
though. And I just hope that football game right there was something that we can look back in the future of the program and say, hey, that was a valuable lesson learned there. And, some of these teams in this league are better than people want to give them credit for.
Right.
It's not the same old league. It's not the same old people, not the same old Indiana State. That running back at Indiana State, he could play a lot of places. I can assure you that. And people are getting better. People are recruiting. People are lifting weights. People are working hard at this thing every day. And you can't take one team for granted by no means across the board.
And we mentioned on the broadcast, I really don't think there was a right or wrong call. It's just philosophical, because if you kick deep and they get a first down, the game's over anyway. It's just a decision you had to make, and they get the first down, and that's the game. As we look ahead, South Dakota State, we mentioned they come in 1-4, lost to Indiana State 38-28. They had the great back last year, Kyle Manette. We remember him, how good he was. They are struggling to run the football. Are they struggling to run it because they're falling behind and they've got to chuck it downfield and throw all day, or are they just not able to run the ball right now?
Well, I think, Kyle obviously was a good running back. He single-handedly beat us last year. There's no question about that. But I still think they have the offensive line that is very capable of running it. Running back-wise, they've got 2 different guys they've been going with. they've had a little bit of a quarterback issue. They've fallen behind some games where they haven't been able to stick to the run. I expect them to come out and try to run the ball against us, see if we can stop the run, see if we can hold up on the edges. I think they'll try to run a little bit interior-wise initially, and then I think they'll get out there and try to work on the edge and see if we want to play with them. Now, that's why it's going to be so important for us on offense to get off to a hot start. I mean, we got to come out and put pressure on these guys and put them into a one-dimensional game, and that's what we expect to do. Our defense had a great week of practice. They had a great day today, and I hope that transfers over to Saturday. It's a big football game for us. Their record doesn't indicate it, but they're a good football team. As hard as it is for me to, want to really admit this, they physically have beat us. They physically beat us because they've been lifting weights, they've been eating, they've been recruiting for the last 4 years like you should. And we haven't been doing that on a consistent base for the last 4 years, and it's time for us to come out and show it. You look at them, you'll see that they are a well-built football team. I mean, they're big, they're strong, they got hamstrings, and they're tough kids. I mean, they're going to come in here and play.
Terrell Cole's their leading rusher, averaging about 52 yards a game, and Zach Zenner's gotten some time as well, averaging about 3.7 yards a carry. Ed, everybody's going to focus on the quarterback situation. Those who don't know, Thomas O'Brien began as the starter. He was the guy back. He quit in September, left the program. Austin Sumner, a freshman, has been starting. Threw for over 300 yards last week, though, against Indiana State, so he's got his feet wet, and that's what we're going to see. We're going to see a young, inexperienced quarterback.
Yep, and with young, inexperienced quarterback comes a questionable head. And the thing that you don't want to do, because South Dakota State is questioning themselves right now. They're at a crossroads like YSU is, Coach, as I see it. And the thing that you don't want to do, Bob and Coach, is to give them any type of momentum, especially when you have a young quarterback like that. You want to make him have to beat you. You want to jump on this team the same way that Indiana State jumped on us, and to have them play catch-up. And that, as I see it, I love looking at stats and reading the tea leaves, and it's one thing to say at the beginning of the year where Youngstown State's going to be, where Indiana State, Northern Iowa. You take a look at, where North Dakota State was in beating Minnesota, Division I team. There's some good athletes in our league. And from my point of view, I think this week you're taking a look right now at two teams that are kind of in the middle of the pack. I think anybody looking at it after a few weeks would say South Dakota State, Youngstown State, maybe a little bit different without a quarterback. Youngstown State has some better athletes, and I think both teams have a chance to define themselves. And that first quarter, that first half is going to have a lot to do, especially with a young team like this.
Well, there are two league losses, 38-28 to Indiana State. They were very much in the game and even led at one point. Lost the week before to Illinois State 20-13. So we saw Illinois State. They only lost that game by 7. So they've been competitive. What about their defense, Coach? What do they bring that's going to you're going to look at?
Well, I think the thing that also needs to be stated about South Dakota State is they had the ball 3 times against Indiana State and first and goal, and they had got 3 field goals. So they had the ball down there,
right?
So it's not. It's not like Indiana State necessarily blew them out by no means. But the thing I like about their defense is I think they're physical up front. Their linebackers are very athletic. They run very well. They like to keep the ball in front of them as far as the way they play coverage. And, they're the one team really last year that kind of contained us. Now, some of that was self-inflicted, but we only put up 20 on them. And we didn't have the success that we expected to have on offense. We felt like we left at least 14 points on the board last year in this game. As you recall, we had a fake punt. We had momentum again right there, and we didn't capitalize on that. And we felt like we left some points on the board last year against these guys, at least 14. So, it's going to be an interesting game. And I told our guys today is we have to come out and get off to a fast start. This football team, they're backed in a corner. Their confidence is shaky a little bit. And, we need to come out and jump on them like we did Illinois State. First 5 possessions, 5 touchdowns.
Right.
Valparaiso, we need to jump on them. Just like Michigan State, except for put scores on the board. And, that's what we got to do. That's got to be our mentality. We got to jump on people. And, I expect us to. I'm hoping we learned our lesson.
about 5 minutes, we'll open it up to questions. So we hope you'll have some questions. Then at the end, we'll have some drawings for some giveaways that we were able to get this week. Some new giveaways, Coach, we'll talk about in a little bit. But we want your questions. We want your thoughts about South Dakota State, YSU, in a couple weeks to get ready for this football game. We talk so much about the defense, but your offense, even though the slow start, the numbers are very similar to what you were able to accomplish a year ago. We're 1 month into it. Are you pleased with where your offense is?
You know what? We always feel good. We're a confident group, and this team's a very confident team. We have obviously a lot more confidence on offense right now just because we consistently feel like we can go out and do it. We got a little more experience. Like Ed always says, we have a lot more starts over there. It's just we have the mentality that every time we touch the ball, we're going to score. Right. the only one that's going to screw it up is us. And that's our mentality. And I love it, and it's fun to be a part of. And, whether I feel like we have a lot more balance this year. We're able to throw the ball a lot better than we ever have, whereas last year I felt like we were so dependent on a run game. And we have a lot more balance this year. But I was very disappointed in the first quarter. I cannot stand 3 and outs. It's very disturbing to me. And we just on first down we put ourselves in a communication error. We didn't execute the block correctly. Got ourselves in a 2nd and long. Things didn't work out from there. We're not built for 3rd and long. We are not physically built for 3rd and long. We're not there yet. A couple years we could be, but right now we're not built for 3rd and long. We have to keep it in 3rd and short.
Ed, when you talk about offense, you look at the line quite a bit. And we only had 1 sack, and some of the guys up front, like Mark Pratt's come in, and I think he's done a great job at center. Coming out, and I talked to him a little bit today. You got a kid coming in, and it's hard. We go no huddle. It's shotgun. He said last year I was snapping. My guy was under center all the time. I mean, these are kind of things I think that are very optimistic. Here's a guy that's come in. He's adjusted well, and he's picked it right up. And I think that's across the board on the O-line.
Yeah, and when you consider, other than Radakovich, who had some starts last year, really the other 4 haven't played together. And it takes time, Bob, to kind of, both of us are offensive linemen, so Coach knows what I'm going to say. You have to know how the guy next to you steps. You have to know how he's thinking, really, to be a good offensive lineman. And the thing that I loved is that Indiana State, because I watched the offensive defensive line, threw some fronts and some things at us early that was different than what they watched on film. And the way that Coach took care of things after 2 or 3 series, made some changes, made some adjustments on the run, that's a lot of the reason why the rest of the game was substantially better. Every game they play together, the offensive line gets better, and as they go, the whole team will go. Right. And that ultimately, when you have these big leads, the greatest defense is having a great offensive line and Cookie running the ball and keeping it for 7 minutes running down the field.
I want to say this, Coach, about Indiana State, and some of the people I look out here were at the game that I know. Those of you that weren't there, I don't know if you could appreciate on TV, they have gotten so much better. I mean, we lost to a good team. That 15 on defense, Ryan Roberts, is exceptional. Their tight end, they got to be as good as any tight end in the league. Archer, the middle linebacker, the quarterback's good, the running back's good. That's a very good football team. They're going to win a lot of games. And, this week, Indiana State plays at Northern Iowa. And you would think, going into that game, Northern Iowa at home would be the favorite. They've dominated the series. They're the big boy on the block. But I think that'll be a good football game. Coach, would you agree, Indiana State? That's a solid, legitimate team.
I think it will be. The only thing I think, though, is Indiana State is getting worn down. Mm-hmm. They weren't the same team that played last week that played us. I think in the second half we exposed them a little bit, and they got wore down. So I think they're getting wore down. This will be a second road game for them. Road games are tough in this conference. I expect Northern Iowa to come out with a win there.
North Dakota State, let's talk a little bit about the league before we open up the questions since we're getting into the heart of it. North Dakota State's yet to lose. They sit at 4-0. They've only given up 43 points on defense. Now, they did beat Minnesota, and that's a good win, but Minnesota's not Michigan State, who you played, and I don't want to not take anything away from them. Right now, if you had to give a nod to a North Dakota State or Northern Iowa, and I know you're not looking at them yet, what do you think, those two teams, when you look at them?
Well, I think, Northern Iowa has the quarterback that obviously on any play can be explosive. I think the thing that you got to ask yourself is can a guy like that win you a conference? Can they win you a national championship? We've seen a lot of great athletes play quarterback, but can those guys consistently win you a game? Whereas I think North Dakota's probably a little better well-built right now to win it as far as just consistency. Their offense plays to their defense plays to their offense. And I think the encouraging thing for us is both of those football teams we had here at home, and they were ball games.
Right.
So that'll be November. We got to take care of October.
That's right.
But if we take care of October, we'll be right there in November. And we're not going to lack any confidence playing those guys because we all know that we were right there with them toe-to-toe last year.
Other than our game, I mentioned that Indiana State travels to the Unidome to take on Northern Iowa. North Dakota State will go to Southern Illinois. Now, Southern Illinois is coming off a loss to Western. That becomes a huge game for Southern Illinois before the Penguins travel there next week. They're at home, and I think they got to believe they probably got to win that game. That'll be an interesting one, Coach.
Well, I think I looked at the schedule before the beginning of the year, and I think you can't ask our schedule to set up any better for us.
Right.
We play Southern Illinois after they play North Dakota State. You can't have a better situation as far as for us. I believe North Dakota State will beat Southern Illinois, but I think it'll be a physical football game. It'll be exhausting. It'll give us an opportunity. Now we just need to go and prove at that point that we can play on the road and win a road game.
Right.
And but at the end of the day, we have to take care of our business this week and work on sawing wood here in October, and then everything else will take care of itself.
Any questions tonight? Anybody have any questions or comments back there? Go ahead.
Will Shaw, we're going to move him over to defensive end. He's running some second team right now. We felt like at defensive end right now, Luis Quiones sprained his MCL. He wasn't playing that much. He was playing a little bit on special teams. So we felt like moving Will Shaw over there would give us some added depth. And we felt like we needed a little bit more of a physical presence at the 6 technique position who defends the C-gap.
That's a good question. Will's moved around. Safety, tight end, out back.
Jordan Thompson will be out for this game. He has an AC sprain, and after 12 days, it hasn't gotten he hasn't got healthy. And the good thing is early on, it looked like he would have missed the whole season. So realistically, he'll be back for the Southern Illinois game. And our policy has always been is we're going to wait till he's ready, but we expect Bellamy to step up, come in there, and do some good things for us. And then we got Pace behind him, and then we got, if we have to go to the bullpen, we can go to DeMond Himes or Parnell Taylor.
We do have the depth of running back. There's no
Yes,
question about that. We're fortunate there. Coach, 2 weeks you would think maybe get some guys back. Health-wise, across the board, you mentioned the update on Thompson. What about anybody else?
Well, Jordan's a guy that obviously will be back for Southern Illinois game. We got Nate Shkurko back at long snapper. So he hasn't played this year. He's been our long snapper here for the last 3 years. Will actually be 4th this year. So we're excited to have him back. Sprague looks like he's going to be back. And then we're doing some stuff with Tate there at will linebacker. Ali Shaib did get banged up in practice, and he'll probably be out until the Southern Illinois game. So it's a good thing that we got some depth there at linebacker.
And you'll start the 3 freshmen at linebacker again? That's the way you'll start?
Yeah, we're going to start those 3 rookies there. And John Sasson's ready to go, come in and play in some key situations there. And then we got obviously Tate there backing him up, and then Sprague over there also. So we feel like we got 6, 7 guys can play. And then we also looked at playing Centner a little bit down there at Sam linebacker. Scott Centner's been a pleasant surprise this year. It's for the first time in his career he's been able to stay healthy. He's had some lingering issues physically since we've been here, so it's encouraging to see him have a good fall, and he's ready to go.
Ed, we root for all the local kids, but you get a kid from McDonald like Centner. A lot of people go, Kevin McDonald's not going to be able to play at YSU. He's going to come in. He's been able to play, and I think he's played pretty well. It's nice to see that.
Yeah, on every level. I mean, there's more and more kids every the last 2 years, and seeing them step up and seeing them stay home and be competitive on a team like YSU is very exciting.
Any other questions tonight? Any other comments out there? Again, kickoff. So Tony, go ahead. You got another one?
Rodakovich is a guy that he obviously went to Penn State. He's out of Steubenville originally, and he's come into our program, and he's been a guy that Coach Carm and I pull our hair about every day. Obviously, Coach Carm, you can see he has no hair. But he is improving, and he's been working hard, and he's a guy that needs to be stimulated at all times, and I think he enjoys the attention. And with offensive linemen, it's one of those things where you just have to keep mistreating them, be hard on them at all times, and they enjoy that kind of atmosphere. You know, they're not guys you need to pat on the back a whole bunch.
Any other comments, questions out there? We'll have some trivia here in a minute. Coach, just some closing thoughts on Saturday's game. And again, hopefully we'll have a big crowd. I know here these are the people that show up every week, and we're back home. It's a 4 o'clock kickoff. Weather's supposed to be terrific, so hopefully we'll get that big crowd at Stambaugh Stadium. You mentioned October and how important October is. You have this game, then you have Southern Illinois, then you go out of league with St. Francis, then you've got Western Illinois. I do think this is really set up well, Ed. I mean, you got to take care of business Saturday, but you get on a roll, and then you face those 2 big teams on the road in November. But that's when you want to face them. Hopefully, when these young guys get some experience.
Yeah, the key to football and becoming a great team is getting better every week. And when you have young kids, obviously, when you don't show up in the first quarter, it's hard to get better. But if they learned a little bit and get better and could come out and win this game and play Youngstown State football, it now sets up for a Southern Illinois game that, based on some things, maybe they're not in the top tier. That's a very beatable, winnable game in October on the road.
Right.
And then you come home and play a team that you're supposed to beat. If you can get better and you can stay healthy during that period of time and get the younger guys those starts, it gives you a heck of a lot better chance in November to swing the big stick, when you're going up to the number 2 and number 6 and number whatever team in the country.
Coach, I got to know you pretty well, and I know that you want to win right now, and you want to get the playoffs right now, and you want to win national championships now. It's a process. How you holding up, going through the process, and knowing that it doesn't happen in a second. It's tough. It's tough sometimes.
I'm not holding up.
Why don't we ask Melinda?
Yeah, that's a better. We'll ask Melinda how Coach is holding up.
I'm not a very patient person. My wife will tell you that. My mom's tell you that about everything, and I want to win now. I'm quite frank about it, and we need to win now. And there's not going to be any excuses. I don't care how young we are. I don't care what we want to manufacture. This is Youngstown State. We need to come out and win Saturday. Worry about being 1-0. It should be a red October, and that's what I expect us to do.
Well, Trev, I'm not sure what all we have tonight. I know we're going to pick the raffle tickets, what our giveaways are. So if
Trevor Parks, he's our guy.
Yeah, the raffles. You know what we have? 2 other people I want to mention before we do it that had people to listen on the broadcast, and we got a good support staff. Our engineer, Big Mike Ordo, made it out tonight.
That's right, Big Mike. We like
Big Mike. Mike's our engineer, does a great job for us.
Full scholarship.
And our other guy that we talk about a lot at the home games is Joe Esposito back here. Joe's our stat man.
That's right.
I tell you what,
Joe
works hard. We keep moving up in the booth. These 2 guys, Mike and Joe, do a great job for us, and we appreciate their support on the broadcast as well. Yeah, thanks to all of you again. We'll be back here next week, 7:30, and we'll see you at the game on Saturday. Thanks, everybody.